Well, welcome back to the Krown Crypto channel. It is a lovely Saturday morning, very, very hot actually for Helsinki, Finland, but more importantly, and to the point for Bitcoin, a lot of things happening, a lot of things firing off on a very pivotal day, Friday, the quadruple witching, of which Bitcoin doing some pretty impressive things actually. So I do want to be following up on the short-term time frame trade ideas that we were looking at yesterday with a 3-hour time frame, and then obviously bring that into the higher term time frames as we did have CME already closed for the weekly yesterday, and what that essentially means for the next couple weeks to come. Anyways, before we get into it, as always, I do want to let you know that you can get the Jewel Light for free for the first 30 days if you follow the directions in the link in the description below. And without further ado, let's just jump right into it. So first things first, we are looking at this 3-hour setup on the Jewel Light. It's a very, very simplistic setup right here. As I just kind of grab my microphone, just make sure that's nice and properly situated there. But in this case, it's very, 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 very simple. Just coming down below that 36 tick right there, turning white on the first read, plus PMARP being below 35 percentile, well, does initiate this setup. And over the course of the last 137 closed trades with that particular setup, which does run us back multiple years actually, there has been about a 62.5% win rate. In this case, it's going to go up a little bit because we just had another one right here. And as you can see, the trade, or the setup essentially is done. I mean, it's a win right there. Obviously, we were looking at an average move based upon this in the performance summary of, I believe it was, just under 7%. In this case, this one actually did close a little bit before that, but even if you were looking for the 7% as well, it looks like we do actually already have that with today's move. Yeah, a little bit over 7% now from setup given to the current high of the day. So ultimately, that one is now by the wayside, and all's well and good, I suppose. And in this case, that is going to set into motion a lot of other things, obviously. So yesterday we were looking at this as potential hopium for the boo laws alongside the daily HPDR range lows, which I'll actually just bring up very, very briefly right here. We'll come back to this one a little bit later, but you can see that Bitcoin bounced off this region right here. As the hopium for the boo laws, and then if it plays out, that's going to have major implications for, of course, the weekly. The weekly close coming over here onto CME has already happened, obviously, as of yesterday. Spot price action to follow tomorrow. And just as I do kind of take a bit of a moment to dial this one a little bit more, let me just kind of get some more screen real estate. There we go. Beautiful. Oh yeah, baby. How do you like me now with the big old face? Some big face action, and Bitcoin bouncing off that mean band yet again. So I do want to reiterate my stance that while we did have that 2-day volatility versus stochastic momentum setup, technically, angled to the downside, it does look like that one is going to be a failure, which actually kind of makes sense to me, because it's not this makes sense, but it is sensical, because we've seen like the last fucking 6 or 7 of those play out. It's kind of due for a failure in this case. Not that that's like perfect statistical analysis, but ultimately my point is that Bitcoin back above that mean band, as long as it is above that mean band, it's really hard to be looking for significantly further downside, which is the low side tick of about 24,800. That is to say, all bets are off, or bearish bets are back on. If Bitcoin does start to trade back down below there, I would still be looking somewhere probably closer to $21,000 with stop along the way at 23.5. But for what it's worth right now, as long as Bitcoin is above that mean band, and in this case very emphatically bouncing from it, that's a pretty damn good signal that the prior history is still something to be mindful of. So I'm going to go back to the full chart view here, and I just want to do a little bit of a more detailed analysis on this one, because what I'm referencing here is that anytime that we have seen these higher term timeframes reclaim that mean band on the Gaussian channel, and I'm just referencing the 5-day over here because it has more iterations, it is actually played between the mean band and the top side band of the Gaussian channel, and in every single prior case is actually broken out to the top side before, and at some point coming back down below the mean band much later. In this case, I think that we're a lot more similar looking to what went on over here in April, May of 2020. Bitcoin reclaimed that mean band after the old Rona dump, spent a lot of time, similar to kind of what we're looking at right now on the weekly, between the top side and the mean band, band, but as you can see, nice little thrust on through and follows through for, well, I mean, this was a rather special one right here. I'm not saying that's necessarily going to happen, but again, that major move back above the Gaussian channel has always happened in all prior iterations of this before, having the big pullback, the big meltdown. I wouldn't say meltdown, but the big correction afterwards. So going back to CME over here, going back to the weekly, you can see that the topside band is where it is currently at. $29,000, which is that of any interest right here? Let me actually just throw in some drawing tools, go over here, and yes, $29,000. Actually, no, $29,000 isn't of any significant interest, if not for anything else other than the Gaussian channel. But what is of significant interest is the falling pizza, the other Bula piece of hopium, continuing to not be invalidated. Actually, Bitcoin bouncing rather perfectly off the lower end of this boundary at the 25,100ish region or so, and so far so good. Would like to see it reclaim the mean band on the daily here. However, that is actually in direct alignment with the top side resistance of this. Now again, patterns, not a big fan of them, just personally speaking, but in this case, does this one, has this one given me reason to invalidate it just yet? No, it hasn't. And these technically do have a bit of a higher probability of breakout to the upside than the downside. It's in the low 60% from my prior studies, which I haven't actually redone in a couple of years now. But ultimately, would technically have a higher probability breakout to the upside, which would be marked by a break above basically the mean bound on the daily, which is currently at 27,600. At that point, there is an implied target somewhere around the top side of the pizza right here. Whether it be $30,000 or $31,000, either one of those is fair game. But that's essentially what I would be looking for. Again, assuming that Bitcoin doesn't come back down, well, especially below that weekly mean bound. But even on the daily right here, I would say that it'd be rather concerning if Bitcoin came back down below 25,700, essentially. So as long as Bitcoin's above that region on a daily, well, short term does look like Bitcoin must try some upside from here. And even more to the point over here, as we go over to the back to the daily HPDR indicator, I do want to take some time to explain this one as well. We do see, as I blow up my fucking face, there we go, and get it over here as well. We do see that the average is coming in at about $27,000. So I would say that would be the next major area to be aware of. If Bitcoin does reclaim that region, expect a test all the way to the top side of the pizza. And at that point, things are going to be looking pretty good for the Bulas right there. It's going to be their time to shine, essentially. But for right now, again, big area, literally right at the strike, $27,000. And I suspect that we will see, at least a test around. I mean, we've kind of already seen, that tested, I would say 26,857, not super exact, but I suspect that we'll see at least one more push, maybe Sunday, Monday, something like that. And then the real question is Bitcoin accept above it or not? If it does, I would expect another push to the top side of the next one, which I believe was another $600-700 higher. Personally speaking, at that point, it's kind of hard not to be on the bullish side, for a pretty impressive breakout. Anyways, referencing stochastic momentum, we can see that the 2-day time frame will actually be turning up. I believe it is tonight. Yeah, it is tonight, actually. Oh, whoops, let me go back so you can actually see the fucking chart. How about that? The 2-day time frame will be turning up tonight, assuming that Bitcoin does close above 25,700. So far, so good. Almost $1,000 above that current pivot. Would even have some bullish divergence of 1, 2, 3 drives variety on the stochastic oscillator right here. So that would be an emphatic failure of the volatility versus stochastic momentum setup right there. I don't have data on what the failures typically look like, but I don't believe that there's any rhyme or reason with them as far as what to expect in terms of average return after the failure. I'd just be essentially looking for something new to completely formulate. But moving on here, we do see that the daily time frame is also going to be showing some upside momentum. Even has that same sort of hit. Is it bullish divergence? Yeah, it is bullish divergence with these last few lows here. I'm referencing the low from actually all the way back on over here from March of 2023. connected with the low of April, and yet again in May, and here we have June, all slightly higher as far as the daily stochastic oscillator goes, and all slightly lower as far as price action goes right here. So that would also be another compounding feature. And there's even daily MACD bullish divergence as well. Shout out to Kevin Svensson on Twitter for posting that chart. I don't think he spoke about that particularly, but it was there, and then I'm like, oh yeah, the MACD has it as well. Fair enough, man. More power to you, sir. But yeah, looking at the daily stochastic momentum remains the upside as long as Bitcoin's above 25,300. Again, kind of another good sign right there. 12-hour time frame also be showing pretty some pretty nice upside momentum here too, as long as Bitcoin's above 25,200. Even has a nice kind of trend line coming in from these last few lows, but my chart's getting a little bit too convoluted there, so I will just get rid of it. 6-hour time frame is also going to be showing upside above 25,750, and 4-hour time frame is going to be showing upside above 25,850. Starting to get a little more in the critical zone there though. And hourly is going to be down actually below 26,675. So does Bitcoin make maybe one more test somewhere around 27 and then play out a bit of a pullback, consolidate, and maybe set up for another try to the upside and blast through that coming into next week? Perhaps yes. Just be aware of where the critical regions are. I don't see any like significantly interesting setups going on right here. I think maybe the daily jewel was starting to I take that back. The daily jewel is actually in the process of a setup right here. Perhaps we'll go over the statistics on that one tomorrow. It's not supported by DMI just yet, so that's a bit of a counterpoint, but ultimately looks like Bulldozer are going to have a nice shot actually to the upside in the short term, very likely this next week. And again, sideways basically above $26,000 is going to be better for Bulldozer. I mean, it's going to be boring. It's going to be boring for most people, but kind of filling out this range between, let's say, 29 upside versus the mean band at 25 to the downside. That's going to favor the Bulldozer long term. So, and the longer that this one does kind of trudge on, it will naturally start to get flat, which will start to favor, again, the Bulldozer from a long term perspective, as well as the overall color shift from red to green. Potentially for the first time since, more than a year ago. So I think I'll leave things right there. We'll go over some more macro timeframes tomorrow, maybe some Ethereum action as well. But I think that's a good place for me to be leaving off. And as always, wish you the best of best. Oh, forgot one last thing. We'll just briefly go over it. Dixie did confirm that hidden bearish evidence, the 102 target, was met. I suspect that we'll probably see a bounce, early next week when it opens up, but that bounce very likely fails, and this one looks like it wants to trade back down closer to 101. So I'd just be, again, kind of another compounding factor that probably helps out Bitcoin Bulldozer here, at least traditional markets as well, which actually don't really need too much help because they've just been up and away. All right, there we go. That's where I want to be leaving off. As always, wish you the best of best. Take care, much love, and see you hopefully tomorrow.